Thank you. Okay, everyone mute themselves, please. Everyone mute themselves, please. All right. What is up, everybody? This is gonna be a hot one. We've got a very, very hot one. We had to again beg the best in the game over here, and he was very kind enough to join. The reason is one and one alone. I'm gonna jump into this. You really know why you're over here. It's very triggering. I've been called out a lot on multiple LinkedIn posts. Jesse's been called out a lot in multiple LinkedIn posts. It's pretty much been, yeah, David, you're losing your mind. We all are. I assure you, we're hosting this. It was not meant to be hosted. We kicked someone else to the next session, and we pulled Jesse in over here, simply because of the fact that it's one and one, right? In the last 2 weeks, we've got a massive swarm of new deliverability experts, people who've been supposedly doing this for 10 years out of nowhere. Lots of false claims, sort of fair claims, being blocked by certain people, by myself. I think Jesse's been blocked by certain people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's been rather interesting, but beyond the frills of it all, I think at the core of it, we want to fix this, right? We want to make sure things are working. We want to make sure people are making money. And right now, there's interesting patterns. You see one camp of people saying everything's good to go. Another camp of people saying it's getting back. And another camp of people saying WTF, like fix this, right? So I want to jump in, give it to Jesse, who I know and trust, at least, to give us the goods, because past 2 years, he's gone ahead and yeah, the attendance number is going to be the biggest, I assure you, for this one. It's going to be cross a couple of hundred people for sure, right? Because it's the hottest topic in the market right now and everyone wants to know. We're going to be diving into warm-ups. We're going to be diving into Outlook. We're going to be diving into what he knows. And like I said in the LinkedIn post, I actually don't know what Jesse knows, and I'm going to be learning this myself. And we'll figure out everything that he has to say. Before we kick off, we do this as usual. If you are new here, there's about 200 people, and there's going to be maybe double that in the next few moments. Please feel free to drop in the comment section, in the chat, where you're from, and you're still carrying 10%. Yeah, drop in where you're from. Where exactly in the world are you from? Is it north, south, east, west, California, Uzbekistan, Sydney, Coimbatore, London? All right. We can, what's Central Seas, whatever? We can go bang for bang. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And then we've got little baby coming in completely ineligible in every way. We can go email for email. Represented prospective. All right, let's go. Let's go. Drop it in. All over the world. Go Messi. All right. So that's Argentina. Lovely. Keep it dropping. Let's get it warm and cozy. Get it warm and cozy. While the crowd is heated up, I'm just going to make one or two announcements very quickly. And Jesse, we're off to you. Let's figure this out together. So most of you over here are from Smartlead. Thank you for joining. Question number 1, will this be recorded? 100%. It is being recorded. Swapnil's here specifically for that. And he's here for more other reasons than that. But just to give you the note that it is going to be recorded and pushed on YouTube in the next 24 hours. Second thing. Yeah, paywall it. Yeah, yes. The video will be out after. It will be up in 24 hours. Second thing, for those who wanted to know, very much so, Smartlead's mobile application has officially gone into approval pending state today. So it should be live in iOS and Android in the very next coming days. So that's a big announcement for all of you. There is still a massive twist to it, a big surprise that comes along with this. We will not be letting you know of that. That will be coming out to some specific people soon. The easiest hint I can give you is it's not just our application. That's all you need to know with that. Cool. Take with that what you have to. Last thing, we have done tons and tons of Glock app tests. We did notice an interesting pattern that Gmail has picked up, and we've made optimizations to some of our emails fingerprinting to make it more anonymized, and that goes live in the next few minutes. So whoever's over here, you're welcome to start running some tests from tomorrow and Monday onwards. It is being released in drips, so it may be part of your campaign or not. But from what we've tested, it's been extremely positive. Nothing to do with the Outlook stuff, but just overall dramatic improvement in deliverability from the patterns that we've seen and updated based upon feedback we've got from some users. So with that being said, is Warmup dead? What's happening with Outlook? Jesse, floors to you. Let's start.
Ooh, it's funny. Somebody in my group, one of the WhatsApp group that I have, was saying Warmup's dead, or there's a lot of people talking about it. And then I was looking and I said, well, who said that? Like who's the crazy person who said that? And then they sent the blog out and it was me, I guess. But that's how the week started. But we've been looking at the data, where obviously all of us are very interested in this. I think, I wanted to show a little bit about some of the ways that you can kind of keep an eye on your deliverability. And I want to talk about a couple of concepts. The first one I wanted to talk about is around control. So with your systems. And what's one of the big things that we're seeing with Warmup, and V, I know you're having to figure out which SMTPs to allow, but there are a lot of sort of, I guess, pirate shippy type warm-up pools or sort of like SMTP providers that are out there. And you have to decide, hey, are these senders good? Are they good? Because remember, the pool is only as good as the quality of the inboxes that are on it, right? So if everybody is a bad tenant, right? So it all comes back to quality, of course. But if people are bad, then that impacts the warm-up pool. So I know obviously it'll be harder to get into pools like Smartlead as time goes on. I'm sure there'll be certain quality controls you'll have to have in place. But what I think is happening the most is you got to really monitor it now. And what's happening is a lot of people are doing resellers. They're buying a lot of domains. They're putting them into the warm-up pool. I think that's one of the big things to start out with. I guess, what are you guys seeing on that front? That's like one of the big areas that I've seen as one of the things, and I'll show you some of the things that we found.
Before we jump into okay, so is the question what are we seeing on our side?
Yeah, just like, are you seeing a lot more new SMTP providers outside of your traditional Google or even reseller? Are you guys having to deal with that in your own support chats?
I will tell you, so someone asked this on SYC actually, and I ran the numbers a few days ago, so 3 days ago, so this number can be redundant right now. So interestingly, Outlook to Gmail has steered towards Gmail right now at 53% Gmail and 46% Outlook if we were to just combine the two, right? That means I'm not jumping into SMTP. I'll get into that in a second. And the trend that we saw effectively is a drop in Gmail during like a few months ago when the whole Gmail issue happened, and a bump in Outlook, and more recently a bump in Gmail and a drop in Outlook ever since the Outlook issues happened the past few weeks. Now comes an interesting piece, which is the addition of SMTP platforms in our system. Since for those who are aware, by the way, everyone, congratulations, we crossed 1 million mailboxes a few weeks ago. So it's all props to everyone over here. Thank you for your support and faith in us. We deeply appreciate it. 50% of them are Nicks. So with that being said, here's the interesting one. We basically have, it was a lot less. So the SMTPs, and I'm not including the Gmail SMTPs. I'll just open this up right now so I'm not waffling. The initially, including Gmail SMTPs and everything else, as considered as Gmail over here, what we've basically picked up on our side is initially it was around 40, 40, 20. So it would be equal split Gmail, equal split Outlook, and then 20% SMTP. That's changed drastically. So out of 1 point, we've crossed about 1.1 million mailboxes since I posted. So across 1.1 million mailboxes, there's actually 300 and something thousand SMTP mailboxes on Smartlead. That's a big number. That's almost crossing 30%. It's in its late 20s.
Yep. So obviously you're communicating with a different audience there, when you're thinking about the warm up. And what I wanted to do today is just kind of go through how I look at what's going on right now before, you draw any conclusions. I think it's good if you can do that. Now, one of the disadvantages of having sort of a reseller handle this is you lose a lot of control. So what I'm going to show here is sort of just a look at the one of the new sort of reporting that's available for Microsoft folks. So if you're running Microsoft, Gmail does not have this level of reporting yet, which is sort of a problem, I think, in some ways as well. So what I'm going to show here, let me just share my screen here. But what you're looking at here is a real view of the basically of what the Defender product, which is you can get this on Microsoft. So what we're looking at, just to stay healthy, is they're really giving you a lot of visibility now into that. And I'll show you another way to kind of get this information inside Smartlead. And what I would say is it's not really about checking if warmups actually dead or not. It's actually more important to monitor your ratio of junk and block to delivered in here. And this is like a unique insight. I haven't seen this type of content anywhere yet because I don't think anyone's really talking about it. But Smartlead is committed to this, so I'm definitely willing to share it with the group. But basically what's happening here is you're getting to see insight. Now we have a healthy system, right? We make sure that we're sending really healthy, relevant. We're not spamming people, right? Who knows what that word means anymore. But basically what you're seeing is a very low ratio getting delivered to junk. Now, when it's a low ratio, it's actually still pretty high relative to the rest of the internet. Which is kind of interesting, right? The internet wants, like, the mail servers want 1 to 3 delivered to junk to 1,000. So this is it's still 4 times the amount, but I bet there's some people who are at, like, and you won't have Smartlead doesn't, well, they could kind of calculate it, but this shows you the sender patterns of all of your warmups and what you're going to want to do is start to monitor this, right? And what you're going to want to do is really start to watch a lot of the patterns that are in here. As if you're running an agency and you're running a lot of email campaigns, you're going to want to really understand this. And if you're working with resellers, you want to make sure they're prepared to provide you this data. You do have to pay for for this product as part of the Office suite. It's not very expensive, but you can get it on all of your inboxes. And what this shows you is it shows you a look at all of the emails that are going out. And what you can do is you can look for some sender patterns that you can figure out what's going on. You can clearly tell which ones are warm up and which ones aren't. And one of the things I really like is you can see where they sort of, what's coming in, what's going out, and you can look at what Microsoft is doing with it. Now, what's nice about it is you're able to see actual real data of the network traffic and what's actually going on. So you can filter by, actually filter by delivered to junk and, blocked, right? Those are typically bad. Where I'm seeing some blocked right now is people who are using a lot of the 4th and 5th email sequences. That's really getting bad. So what's happening is there's a lot of this, like, cause and correlation problem going on. My statement about warm-up networks, right? It wasn't really exactly how they wrote it in that blog, but it was a good blog. But I think there was it's like this little sensationalism there. But basically what I would say is get into Defender, right? Go through the Explorer. You're going to see a lot of the same things I've seen. Share it with the group. I think Smartlead has a great open community where they can, Slack community where you can share this information. But some of the things you want to look for are delivered, right? And if you're not using Office, I'll show you another way to do it, but and we'll kind of show you that. But this shows you all of the things that are here that you want to look at. And what you really want to do is try to match this up as well as you can and to what's going on. And you're going to start to see patterns, and you're going to know because you're running the email campaigns. And if you have, like, account managers running it, you want to keep an eye on the actual campaigns and which ones are starting to be blocked. And, if there's issues with those inboxes, that's how you can detect if one of these inboxes is sort of compromised. And then I would also add, in V, this is one of the things we've talked about several times. The org ID is important now. So where you're sending from, the actual organization that you're sending from is actually part of your reputation now. We've discovered that this is very very important, the actual org. So you want to find out what other domains are on that and I've actually built a tool. We'll share it for this actual this, because it's something I'm providing to the Smartlead team as a support tool. But it'll only be available for this particular. Sorry if you're listening to the recording right now, you're going to be annoyed with me, but you can only get it if you've basically if you're on here
in the chat.
But what I'll show you is we've got a support tool where you can basically go in and you can put in a domain check. Now there's a password here you can do. It's pirate ship. That's the password. And then you can put in any Microsoft domain and you can see where that actual, this is the URL right here, and I'll share it with the group, but you can actually see what other domains are on that reputation. So if you're buying Office, this is only for Office, Microsoft Office, but we're kind of looking at Microsoft Office right now. I think the plus of Microsoft Office is they are giving you really good feedback loops where Google is not. But most of the people that are complaining recently, is what I found, is more of them are using Office. So this gives you a really good way to diagnose it. And I'll show you part 2 of this. I'm going to show you one other thing where you can actually, you could do it inside Smartlead. But this, I'll just pause here if there are any questions, V, if you want to take any.
Yeah, just a quick one. What's a password? Because people are going nuts. Pirate ship, right?
The password, and I've strategically left it in the source code. So if you're one of those, you can actually just view the page source, and it does say listen for
listen for password. Love
that
it.
is the password.
How good.
Yeah, so you can run this on your own domain, and what this will tell you, I don't want to dox myself on what my domains are, but you can actually run it on any Office domain. It'll tell you the region, the domain, the tenant, the org tenant was bought in. So what that tells you is it tells you where you might be buying your domains, right? So if you got a reseller, you know what's on that domain and what's on that tenant. And that is really what you got to be worried about now. So that's where I think people are missing, is that they're saying, well, hey, I think it's this, I think it's that. And, Smartlead is just, I feel so bad for these guys because they're getting blamed for things that are completely outside of their control, right? If you're buying things from people, you have to find out first from your reseller, right? Go to them first if there's a delivery problem, right? That's the person who's responsible for getting your emails delivered. But then you can kind of start to do some of this. And if you're buying it from Microsoft Direct, you can use this system, which is called the Microsoft Defender.
Hey Jesse, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second.
Yeah.
We're going to do a lot of, you can stay in the screen. People are consistently concerned or they're confused about what exactly an org or tenant means. Can you just break that down? Yeah,
so an organization or a tenant would be one company and all of the domains that are part of that. So there's a school of thought there where when an organization, what it is let's say you go out and buy, it's your credit card relationship. And this is why, as an agency, you got to hold your customers accountable to negative, if you're an agency and you're listening to this, you've got to hold your customers accountable to negative responses now. Meaning you may want to put a surcharge on, their deliverability a little bit, right? Because that, by the way, that's what SendGrid and all the other ESPs do. And if you're getting into that world where you're sending more emails, you're almost becoming an ESP yourself. And this is really what you got to be thinking about. It's the org, it's who has the billing relationship, which is usually the reseller or you or whoever's credit card it's on. I like to keep my relationships direct with Microsoft because I like to be directly in their support line if there's an issue. It's very, it's a little bit more, for me, it's just more, it just works. I like to give them a hard time on the support chat, and I have people that help me do that. I make sure I'm, not seeing any issues and I complain a lot. I'm like the Karen of Microsoft support here, sorry for lack of a better analogy. But anyways.
Okay, cool. So going back into what you were speaking about with the Microsoft Defender.
Yeah, so Microsoft Defender is a product that they've done, and there's a lot of little hints that are dropping around here that are sort of interesting to me. And what
Mhm.
you're finding here is Microsoft is now getting into the bulk sending game, right? They're starting to show you the same level of detail that you would get on a system that would be more for marketing, like an SES or SendGrid or one of those, but they're doing it at the personal inbox level, which is probably what the demand of the market is. And my prediction is they're going to have a pay to play system coming up soon too. That's something else that I'm kind of calling out right now, and you'll see this is going to be validated soon. But what I mean by pay to play, they're going to have high volume sender packages where you can probably send more and deal with a little more. I mean, everybody has a price, if you will. It's like the $1 Million Man thing, you know. But it's one of those things they're going to probably want people on the platform. And but basically, it just tells you exactly where your emails are going. If they're going into spam, you're going to know. And this is really the only time you've ever gotten to look at this. If it's delivered into junk, right? You can see I had 20 emails that day go into junk. And what you need to do is export that entire list out, figure out what's going into junk, and figure out why.
Mhm.
You wouldn't get this visibility otherwise. This is the only way to really get this visibility. You can't do this in
Mhm.
Google right now. It's
Mhm.
impossible without like bounce codes coming in, but the bounce codes don't
Mhm.
always come in.
Mhm.
This really helps.
Mhm.
And then I'll show you the Smartlead way to do it, but certainly willing to take any questions right now, V.
I just have one question over here. There's a few. We'll go into it. One question I have is, so with the stuff that you've pointed over here that's saying that's in junk, is this received or is it sent?
Send. This is only outbound.
Okay, so outbound. So
Yeah, so
in
you can control that actually. You can
okay.
sorry, let me just take a step back there. The direction is one of the things you can
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is like a similar to like possibly like how you'd want to look at this here. So you have like, is it an
Outbound. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
outbound email?
Cool. Okay.
And then
Okay.
you would
So
run the
okay. So for the first time, people get to see if their emails actually landed in primary, secondary, or whatever, if they're using Outlook, and they get to do that without actually logging to their customers' mailboxes
Mhm.
effectively, right? Okay. Do
Yep.
you guys realize the importance of what's just been figured out over here? You effectively have transparent access. We don't need to worry about Glock apps or like even what we're building right now for what's coming out with our own deliverability tool. But effectively, this will give you, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, it will give you some form of transparent access
It'll
at
give
least.
you Microsoft's so what it'll give you is it'll give you the Microsoft perspective, which
Yeah.
is an
Yeah.
interesting one because they have access to the other side.
Correct.
And
Yeah. So
well,
correct.
the
Yeah.
inboxes they have, right? You got to remember that's why
This
I like
isn't Gmail. This is not cross network. This is in their
no,
own
no,
network, effectively.
Gmail's
Yeah.
not going to share that with Mike,
Yeah. Yeah. Of
but
course. Yeah.
key
Yeah.
is that knowing what got filtered
Yeah.
into spam
Yeah.
in another system
Yeah.
is something we haven't had a lot of visibility in unless we got a reply before. And what this shows is even on the warmup pool, when you
Yeah.
do bounce an email in the warmup pool, you can go check what happened and you
Yep.
can run a message trace on it.
Yep. 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 Got it. Makes sense. Makes
Mhm.
sense. Cool. So just for those jumping in, diving in here and there, we'll answer you. Keep dropping your questions. We'll keep going through this as well. So this is only MS junk as an MS. So Daniel, to your question, effectively, what he's shown over here is in essence, because a lot of this topic is around Outlook. For those who are effectively doing Outlook to Outlook, which is again, if you're selling to Fortune 5000, good chance you are. You can get some sort of access to insights as to where your emails are actually going. Simple, period. That's all it is. Obviously, as
Place
Jesse said, if it's third-party SMTPs, if it's Gmail, no one's going to be sharing that kind of stuff. That's ridiculous, right? They're direct competitors. But if it at least going to Outlook, you have some sense of understanding of how it's working for you. So cool. That's actually great. Jesse, some questions that have been popping up. First point is, I guess, do you know what type? Okay, let's maybe roll back over here. First one, where do resellers come into this entire experience? Do we still work with them? Do we not work with them? You know how you pointed that tenants are an issue. I know we're not aware of how some resellers manage their stuff. It's a very big black box. So what should people do? Because resellers are a big play as to what people are doing right now.
here's my I actually think it's bad for the resellers are actually taking on some of the risk.
Okay.
What I think is bad is the resellers a lot of the times are selling on low cost inboxes. And actually, I think that's probably the exact wrong approach, because the way that they're getting the lower cost is actually they're buying we've done some analysis on a lot of them. Not all of them, right? But some of them. What a lot of them are doing is they're buying the domains. They're arbitraging between the Asia Pacific domains to people who are emailing the US, and they're buying them in that region. And what
Uh-huh.
that's doing is it's causing an imbalance. You're emailing US based people, but your resellers are in uh, countries that are in Asia Pacific.
Singapore, Asia Pacific. Yeah, we've seen that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's really causing a lot of this issue, where it's not congruent. If you think about it, you want to be like like there was a guy remember the guy that came on and said, I have a team of people doing this.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
They're doing
yeah,
it really well for me, or blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. And you're like,
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
I mean, obviously, but you're not
yeah,
paying $79 for the whole team
yeah,
forever, like
yeah,
whatever it is. But like, that's that's what's going on right now, is you got to keep an eye on where they're buying the actual region. And Europe is a better
yep,
place than Asia, and then also US, but they're arbitraging between the $1 inbox and possibly in like India versus the
yep.
$6 inbox in the US, or $4 inbox. And that's where they're making the profit margin. And I think that's hurting your quality.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Cool.
Right.
So
Because
we've got a few.
where would you
Sorry,
take an
Karen.
email from? You know?
So what was the last thing you said?
Like, I guess just in general, like, you got to think about these things they're trying to catch behaviors that are not
Correct, correct,
look right.
correct,
Would
correct,
you, if
correct.
you were a spam filter, would you take an email from a country that isn't based in the US if you're emailing US people versus, like, that's been marked
No, I get
spam?
your point. It's simple. It's simple
Yeah,
math games, right? The simple probability as
right.
to why are they coming from here versus US, right? The assumption of emails is it should be within the networks that we're trying to communicate through, firstly, right? So fair call. There's a few questions over here. Is it okay if we can just go through some of them with you right now?
Go for it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, easy. Okay. We'll go through we'll go through one of them, which is effectively before there's a bunch of questions popped in. One of the questions is from Saksham. So if I'm from Europe, I shouldn't be sending emails to the US. Is that something to consider?
So we don't have the conclusive. So the data, we're still monitoring it, right? I've been monitoring a lot now. What I'm also doing is I didn't have enough Defender data, so
Uh-huh.
I've called a couple of people that I needed to get it from, and I've got access now, and I'm analyzing it. I haven't totally come to
Yep.
any conclusions, and I want to be
Yep.
careful. That's what I want to clear up on that blog. Like, what I said, I didn't say exactly what was kind of how they put
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
blog out there, but I liked what
Yep.
they did. It was a good news jack.
Mm.
But the biggest thing is that you really got to think about how you should be able to answer the question yourself. Europe probably would be if I had to guess without any data, I mean, Europe would actually be probably a little, in some ways, better, because European businesses don't have as much of a, because of the GDPR, that it's not as like ingrained in the so that could actually help. European IPs could be fine, but it's like
Uh-huh.
the relay IPs from Office. But we don't really know, but the data is what really you need. And if you don't have that, you're going to have to ask the reseller to get you that data, and hopefully they've got that, and you should probably pay them more money. It really comes
Yep.
down to, if it's really cheap, you're the product. Like, if it's free, they're probably, whatever
Probably,
they're
yeah.
doing.
No, there's a reason for
Like,
the cost behind everything.
like,
Yeah.
don't be silly here, that like you could just buy,
Yep.
they're gonna set it up for you too. Like, come on, like, somebody has to make a living here, and everybody, it's a global economy in a lot of ways, right? Like, you're gonna see there's
Yep.
know how much people make in different countries, and like, figure it out, that like, even though the cost of living could be different, it's not that, like, come on, like, it's not $1 to like pay your resellers more money if they have this information.
Yep.
Find ones
Yep.
that do, find innovative ones that are monitoring this shit.
Yep. Makes sense. Cool. So before we jump into some more questions, just as an FYI to everyone, everything Jesse's popping in over here, everything I say, everything anyone says is an assumption to a best guess. Please don't take it as an absolute and then run through like this is absolutely right or this is absolutely wrong. Because just like what was claimed a few weeks ago, things do change, right? So this is just information that I assure you, Jesse spent some weird late nights and calls with me on WhatsApp and other people to figure this stuff out. And it's an assumption. Like even me and him had a front and back. What was it on Tuesday when you called?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been
So
looking at this stuff.
yeah, it's not like me and him agree 24/7. It's just stuff that we are trying to discover ourselves. Like he's sharing information, I'm sharing information, and it's just the best guess that we're either going to make. He knows a lot more than I do. I can guarantee you that part. And we're gonna go with best guesses at this point in time. And his best guess is the best guess that we're gonna take on.
Yeah, I
On
would say
that
right now,
note,
you want to do it. You still want to do warm up right now. I'm not saying you want to stop, but what you want to do is you
I don't
actually
know. I think people are just talking about does that mean you shouldn't ever send emails from Europe to US because people can't do international business, right? That's
no.
where I'm coming. Yeah. So we can ignore that piece, but it's all good. Sweet. Now we'll take on some pertinent questions and we'll move on to the next piece. The question over here is, what's a good ratio of delivered to junk for a sales team? You mentioned 1 to 3 every 1,000 for non-sellers. This is from Jorge. He's curious about this to see if there's any tipping point they should avoid, and when they should start. Yeah.
You're gonna start to face issues like a little bit. Your deliverability is gonna get lowered after, and then everyone's gonna hate me for saying this number because it's impossible to achieve it. But the internet wants a 3 to 1,000 at the most, and that's just facts. That's just data. Like that's very well accepted. Actually, so Amazon will suspend your account over 3. What I mean by, okay, so let me just or take that out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
3 emails getting marked as report as spam on 1,000 means you're higher than everybody else. So like a good cold email group is probably going to still be at like 12, 15. And if you're using one of the other like big engagement platforms, some of those SDR teams are over like probably half of the friggin' emails, and that's why they're destroying their company's domain name. But the Smartlead users are a little more sophisticated than that, so like that's why I'm on here helping them or with this. I wouldn't even bother on the side, but that's what I'm talking about. Is like you want to be careful when you start to see some of these ratios changing, because it really you want to be careful when you see reported the junk ones, right? That's where it's really bad.
That's when you start getting to problems. Yep.
And blocked is essentially the same thing. Blocked is basically like you've already been blocked, and if you're seeing a really high ratio here, you might have the wrong clients, and you're gonna have to start firing certain clients. You're gonna have to start firing them or holding them more accountable, putting them on their own tenant, charging them more money. Tenant meaning another org. You're gonna have to want to build that, put that out there, and put that you're gonna have to charge people for negative emails now. If they get a lot of negatives back, trust me, there's another half of those emails that are getting marked as spam too.
Got it. Got an interesting one from Matt Lucero, where he says, is the 3 email report on an email account level, domain level, or IP level? Like, is the spam reporting being tracked by accounts? That means via Smartlead AI, the domain, Smartlead AI, or the IP, whatever the IP is originating from. I actually think
we don't totally know, right? Nobody really knows any real, like they won't share exactly what they're looking at, but it's going to be tracked by what they can fingerprint. The main things that they're looking at, like the biggest, most important things, would be the things that they have like legal rights on, which would be IP addresses, right? And then domain names, right? Those are like the 2. And then their own data, which is their model, right? Like that's their secret model. That's their sort of secret sauce. They have a lot of the account data, right? So they can use that information, and it's in their terms and services that you abide by that.
Okay.
So I think it's that, and then it's going to be everything else. It's going to be all that other you're sending, and that's what it's going to be.
Fair enough. Makes sense. So Jesse, given your insights, is it best to keep outbound Outlook to Outlook and Gmail to Gmail with the matching feature, or what are your thoughts over here?
Yeah, the matching is going to get even more, and you're going to want to even go another level now. If you really want to be the best, like here's how I might set it up if like you really want to like do it right. I think what you're going to want to do is measure so one big thing I would do is the first thing I would do if you aren't if you don't have the subscription to the email validation that's in the Smartlead platform,
Yeah.
turn that on immediately, because it's just worth it. Like automatically you're going to get into, like, that's one big thing I would do because you'd never want to hit those invalids. You can't risk an invalid email anymore, right? And what a lot of these kind of sneaky data providers are doing is they're in the waterfalls and they're just saying, oh yeah, that's valid. You know, I saw one of them was validating some email on Amazon that you could never check the score. You could never check it. So they were just like lying to take your credits, right? In one of these waterfall systems. But that is the part I would say you want to be careful there. And you want to get that validation. You want to make sure there, but we don't really know, right? You have to use this data, but you need a good size sample. I have 500,000 emails that I've analyzed, and I'm making some conclusions personally, but I haven't released all of them yet. I'm showing some of it because I want to have more conclusive evidence from other tenants, other organizations, just so I know exactly what the problem is.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Makes sense. Cool. Sweet. The next question I wanted to pick up is, let's talk about what are some things people who are using Gmail and G Suite can do to get better. They have also seen
really glad you asked that. Yep. So there's something in that I love, actually. By the way, thank you, Smartlead. This is just such a great feature that you guys have added. This and there's a 7 days. So you actually have to be very, very diligent on this, right? What I would, and by the way, Smartlead, what I would probably recommend is, you know, if anybody could buy more than 7 days, I think there'd be some value there. You know, add on.
Yep.
I'd love
got it.
but basically, like, what's really cool about it is you can go in here and you could set up an event hook. So when you set up an event hook, if you know the Smartlead order of priority, what you want to do is you want to basically go into your webhooks, and you want to essentially go in there and find out where they're getting sent. And you want to set up that on the event side. So what that means is you want to get notified here, and you want to do an event webhook, and you want to get alerted on this. This overrides everything. So that's what's huge, is that overrides every single other web. And you want to go untracked replies. And then what you want to do is you want to monitor the mail delivery system stuff. This will be the secret to unlocking a lot of the problems that you might be having, because if you can monitor this right here can tell you what's going on. You have to sort of read some of the messaging, and you have to have some controls around it. We're analyzing with GPT, because all of these, and the big popular terminology is segs, right? I don't want to go there again, but
yeah.
But that's a sore spot. I know. We won't go there, but the segs out there, the security gateway.
Secure email gateways are basically protocols on top of ESPs that manage spam, ensure your emails are protected, make sure that you're not getting emails from people who are not verified, etc., etc. Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
Yep. So the segs, if you will, what they will do is you can go into the secure gateways, and they kind of change the messaging a lot, because they don't want these systems to be totally, transparent on them.
Yeah.
So what you want to look at here is you want to be looking at, like, what is the message? Like, was I blocked? Like, what's and then Microsoft documents what all of these messages mean. You should start to really look at it. I'll tell you one sign that I think is really bad right now. If you're sending 3 messages and then you send a 4th and the 4th gets blocked, that's on you, man. You really just put yourself in a bad position. What that usually means is the person was like, why the hell is this person emailing me 4 times? That's the stuff I'd be very careful right now. And that you can't, stop blaming. Like, I think a lot of these people just need to really stop blaming Smartlead, because a lot of it doesn't have to do with Smartlead. And they can't really control some of the stuff that you're doing. In fact, you're probably bringing down the rest of us. So they're going to probably have to put some controls in some of the areas. That'd be my guess, but, make sure that the pools are a little more, vetted and things like that. They'll probably have to put some age limitations, maybe some priority pools for good senders. I'm sure that.
But here's a question to sort of raise with you, right? So we do have private pools, and we've had that for a bit, and we've tested that. and we've tested it with people using high verified mailboxes or aged mailboxes or power users as well. It's all available and already there right now, and it's access on invite and so on and so forth. What we noticed with that is people who are part of exclusive pools, which is it was an interesting insight for us as well, which is the assumption is that when you have people with age domains interacting with age domains, and when they go ahead and interact with someone else with like a lower age domain, then suddenly the results were not that good. And the alternative path is if you have people with the same like domain age, we're using domain age as a data point over here. Like if you have emails in the same domain age interacting with each other, suddenly when the mailboxes interact with something that looks a little different, did not work at all, right? So what would you say would be interesting insights or things to consider when diversification of Warmup pools are being created?
Yeah, so I think it's the control that you might have, where what I think I would probably do if I was like really, not to re-architect like what a warm-up pool might look like. I'd be looking for what I would be looking for is the ones that are marking the hard blocks. There's some of these messages, if you sort of analyze, like I've got 1,681 here that are sort of part of a mail delivery system. What I think is important is to start to measure like that true blocking one, the ones that you assume are being blocked for that, and maybe pulling those in on like a webhook, and then I might match those up. But I think those are some of the things you guys are obviously working on, and the algorithms and things like that. I think what it's going to take is it'll just take more data. I don't think what would be good to clear up is that we weren't saying like don't use the warm-up pools, and we don't know. Like it could just mean maybe we have to change the ratios. Maybe those are the things. I wouldn't. It's hard to really say. There's a lot of people asking me. I'm getting 5, 6 a day now. Like, hey, is this like, is there something wrong here? Whatever. But like, you really got to check a lot of these things, right? If you have one bad tenant on try removing that from that group and maybe setting it up on another one and charging that customer that, and put that in your contract that they can't do that. Like SendGrid does this, right? Like every other ES does this. You can't just send any email anymore. Like if it sucks, if the offer sucks and you're not getting any positive replies, just tell them, charge them more. I mean, that's really what you have to do.
Fair enough. And now I want to drop into a few more quick questions over here. I think Jorge actually raised a very cool question, right? Which is, you've spoken about this untracked reply stuff, which is great, by the way. I didn't know of this as to how like that people are doing this, which is great. But how do I actually use the untracked replies messaging to drive insight? Am I like taking this, webhooking it to ChatGPT and asking it to like capture information? But how do I do this at scale? Because obviously, I mean, look at you got 1,681 messages, right? Like, how do I actually do this?
So I'm building something. I'm doing something. I'm building something. I'm using a streaming technology to do it, to pull it out. But you could. It's not enough to really need that. I'm just trying to be cool or something like that. But I'm nerding out a little bit. But what you could do is just take all of these, pump them into maybe like you couldn't use like Zapier for this because it could get expensive, but maybe like an N8N or something like that. And you could push, I would maybe get an automation person and have all of those untracked replies put on a spreadsheet. And then maybe what I would do is I would have GPT maybe in the middle analyzing what it actually is saying, and maybe pull in some of the feedback loop documentation. And then I would probably build something like that. That would be I know you guys will probably have something like this to give you some deeper insights, but I think that's where there's a huge opportunity for AI, because you really need these to analyze these. And then you want to build like a knowledge base of what each security gateway and each deliverability system has. And you want to make your own conclusions like, hey, this campaign got 10x the bounces and I'm getting blocked. Like, we're going to have to shut this customer off our tenant. We're going to have to move them to a more expensive one. Make sure you pre-negotiate that in your contracts with your customers. That's what I would do.
Okay. So if I were to summarize this in a super like actionable way, right? Take the webhooks, capture the data, pump it through maybe a make N8N or Zapier, if that's your stick. Push it through maybe something like a ChatGPT or a simple LLM categorization. Go ahead and pick up common trends after each campaign, and then make the call saying, all right, this particular error state is being picked up an X amount of times, and that's not looking good. Is that a fair call?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I would do. And
Yep.
What that does, what I believe that could do for your company is it's just so important because you know, you can actually get some real insights, and you can find out the biggest question that you don't have right now. Is it the warm-up pool? Is it
Yes.
not
Let's
Smartlead?
get into that.
Not Smartlead, because you're not doing anything. That's like, you're not doing any of the sending. There's nothing they're gonna pull out of that. You're sending through their inboxes.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that's the biggest thing, is like, you want to have this insight because you are the one setting up the campaigns. So you need to know the quality. Look, whenever somebody takes on a customer to do these types of emails, you already know it's coming with the territory that some of this stuff's going to suck. So you got to go out and really tell them, like, you suck compared to the rest of this, my customers. And this is, by the way, this is exactly what happens in an ESP. Right? When SendGrid, sending out with SendGrid, and you're sending out, I mean, probably newsletters or one of these, this is what they're doing. They're just looking at they're saying, this is an e-com company. This is a SaaS companies have terrible, you know, deliverability on those. So they put you in different IP ranges, and that's what you're going to have to do with your customers. You have to put them in different orgs.
Makes sense. We don't need to go too deep into this because I know we are it was, you know, in theory discussion, Jesse, that day. But you did find some correlative between how, I don't know if you want to discuss this, you can say no, with how Outlook was massaging the way messages went to different IPs. So I know it was all theory and it was still just a topic discussion, but since we are, you know, probing and putting the tin hat on our heads, might as well just go through it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you read the Microsoft documentation for this and their guidance on this, what they're basically telling you is they have a group of IPs that they use and they push you to if they feel like you're, quote unquote, and this is always every time I say this word, I laugh a little bit, backscatter or spam. Right? That's the terminology they're using now. That's what these companies are using. And if they feel you're that, they use something, they say they're going to put you in this this category called you're going to be in this relay. You're considered a relay outbound now. So what they're doing is they're sending you with a different IP address. And if you're in this now, there's still some of this that is being discovered. We're still investigating some of it. But what that does is, if you're in a different email tier, what they're going to do is those emails are going to get reported to all of these like blacklists because they're already on the list. They're already blacklisted, right? So what it is a lot of companies have very low tolerance for the relay, the outbound. Look, Microsoft's just saying, yeah, we know these guys. They're one of our customers from our IPs, but we're not going to vouch for them. They're putting you on another tier, and if you're on that tier, and you gotta use some analysis to really figure out which ones are, and they change it every quarter, I found. When they change it, you got to kind of follow it. But what's happening is that group of IPs, if they send with that, you're going to see a lot more block because Google's blocking those, you know, and I think that's where a lot of the problem is. It's the Microsoft people who are on the relays, the outbound relays from other countries that aren't emailing the same country they're selling to. That group of people are emailing Google people, and then Google already knows because Microsoft's already tipped them off, and they also have the org ID in the header, so they can figure out, oh wow, this is pretty bad. So that's the kind of thing that we're seeing a little bit more. You know, I know that's pretty advanced stuff, but like, look, you should be watching the Defender to see if you're on the relay group.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
The relay group is important. People need to just do a quick Google search on what Microsoft relays are. In effect, like Jesse said, relays are basically a network of IPs that Microsoft puts you under when it assumes that your emails just are not high quality, right? And if you see some emails are going there, now here comes the question of conversation, which is what classifies an email to go there or not go there? Is it the reputation? Is it the age? Is it the email? Is it the headers? Is it the copy? Is the bounce rate? That's the one to figure out. They have a relay. There's a relay range. David, relays go through, I think 49500 something. Yeah, 409500/16 range, and you can go to Microsoft Defender and see where your emails are going out from.
Yeah, the biggest, I'm going to show you the line, and V and I both have highlighted this.
Yeah.
And you want to read this.
Yep.
Read this statement right here. In certain scenarios, messages that are forwarded or relayed via Microsoft are sent special relay pool. Because the destination shouldn't consider Microsoft as the actual sender. If Microsoft's not going to vouch for you, guess what? You got a problem, because that means no one's taking your stuff. Because you're sending
Correct.
with Microsoft, they already are blocking you, essentially. Their shadow, there's, and the level
Yeah.
of blocks you're getting is unknown, right? You're not always getting
Correct.
alerted.
Cool.
But
I want to jump into two more questions, and this is where it gets interesting, which is where the whole thing about people facing silent failures, which is it looks like the message actually sent, but it did not send. It was because of this little guy. Now we are releasing a little patch for everyone over here, so you have that sense of transparency. But just note that was it. Now, before we go into the next question, there's a ton of them. I'm struggling to keep up. There's a lot of cool questions. Jesse, I think we jumped on it, but we skimmed on it a little bit. Can you maybe roll back into helping people understand again the Google quote unquote deliverability stuff? What exactly? What are your thoughts and feedback over there?
yeah, so what I would do, a couple things I would do. Number one, I'd get somebody who knows the automation and the webhooks. And what I would do is I would get them to build an automation that detects when you get those untracked replies. And I would also set up and by the way, if, Smartlead, it'd be cool if this was one of them, but a diagnostic email campaign. What we do for best practices, we will send we'll send like an SES or we'll just send like an email to, and we'll find out which ones failed DKIM all the time. We're always looking for that one, because that one's the hard. What sometimes they do is they'll just sort of like fail your DKIM eventually. And if you are testing that, what you want to do is set up that inbox placement somewhere, and that's, I think, Smartlead's building to do this,
Yeah,
which is
but you've
awesome.
got Glock apps as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that. And what I think you want to do is always test all of your email addresses with an actual real email and a placement test every week automatically with a webhook. And you can do that. And that right there will help you there. Then the other thing you want to do is monitor your untracked replies and know where you're sending. And what I like to do is I like to, in the campaigns when I'm uploading them, I'm uploading the metadata. I'm uploading the, either the Google or Microsoft, whichever, because I use the lead magic validation.
Yeah.
Or I know which pool I know which MX server I'm emailing. So I'm watching that, and you see your patterns exist. What you find is the untracked replies start to bounce on certain MX servers before other ones. And that's what you got to monitor to figure this out.
Got
So
it.
I don't know,
Okay.
might be a little advanced there, but
No.
that's what you got.
Okay. Got it. Interesting. All right. Everyone, we're going to tail towards the tail end, which is basically having you start raising your questions. And the way these things work is turn on your cameras, put your hands up at the Simo already knows, put in a reaction, and then we'll start spotlighting you. But before we do that, Jesse, it would be unfair to go ahead and start going to Q&A before answering this rather interesting question. And you are welcome to say you don't have the right amount of data, or you stand against or for it. This is a completely open platform. Where are you right now with Warmups working or not working?
Yeah, so excuse me. I would 100% have them on, and I would be monitoring them.
Okay.
And what you need is more time to figure out like what was going on. I think what you're going to find is, just like anything, things become less effective over time, and strategies start to build defense. I mean, AI, which is what they're using, machine learning AI, they're starting to build a lot of defenses against Warmup. And this isn't just Smartlead, this is a global problem. And what you're going to find is everybody's going to have problems with Warmup. The Warmup isn't going to get necessarily better unless you keep reinventing. And that's why you got to trust the innovation that Smartlead has. And, they're sort of crafting their algorithms, right? And it's a little bit of a race, right? And I'd say you still want to do it, but you want to monitor it, and you want to hold, I mean, look, sorry, you want to hold Smartlead accountable to it.
Yeah. That's the one time
They're
want to
the
keep us
most accountable. Yeah, that's what's great about you guys.
I completely agree with you on that piece. The only thing I'll add on to this premise over here is I don't have an opinion. My opinion is to keep it running. To be completely honest, as much as it causes the most pain for us right now in terms of support management, as you can see, even with the chat, people speaking about warmups, it is the thing that is the biggest maintenance piece for us. However, if you have tangible information and data that backs the claim for you to not go ahead and turn it on and send without turning it on, don't turn it off. Turn it off and do what works for you, right? I've said this in every single thing that I do, every single webinar that I've run, is all we can do is give best guides based upon information we see. But in the end, they're your mailboxes. You know them better than anyone else. So if you're seeing it not work for you, turn it off. But turn it off under your own duress. Don't turn it off because you saw a tweet. Don't turn it off because you saw a webinar. Don't turn it off because your LinkedIn post. Don't do any of that, right? Turn it off because you tried it and it didn't work for you. That's all. That's the only thing I'll tell you. And if obviously if your mom says to turn it off, you have to listen to your mom. Sweet. All right. So we've got like a ton of questions already popping in. Let's go for this. I'm gonna mess up pronouncing your name, mate. I apologize. Is it Simo? Simo? I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself, please. You need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'll try to ask a question that everyone can benefit from, hopefully. So basically, I saw in another video that a good response rate is between 4 to 5%. That means good deliverability. And if you have between a 2 to 3% response rate, you're kind of in a gray zone. And I just wanted to know, like, what would you do to get it from a 3% response rate to a 5%? Because gray zone basically means you did everything right, but there's those little 1% that you haven't done.
Yep.
And what would that be?
Yep. So let me just ask you a quick question. Are you, when you're validating, so the first thing, because the easiest, you want to try to fix the easy things first, right? To get it, lowest time, like easiest investment. When you send out a campaign, are you sending, what's your strategy around catch-all email and sort of like, are you using only valid? And I'm not talking what a product that does finding of an email. I'm talking email validation, like network validation. Are you doing catch-alls or are you doing valid, or which ones do you email first?
So I always like to mix the two a little bit because I don't want to have the catch-alls all at the end, because those have the most risk basically. Because I don't know, I know you talked about it in another video as well, where you said that there is a way to find which catch-alls to send messages to.
There is, but it's less reliable. So what I would do first is I would try to convince the person who you're emailing for, or yourself. It's not as hard to convince yourself because I'll just tell you that it's the right thing to do. Email the ones that are valid first.
Okay.
And what I mean by valid, and I know there's a couple of these products that like find emails, but what they're saying is like valid, everything's valid. No, if it's network valid, meaning I can actually go and ping the email address on a, on like port 25, like I can actually, it actually responds. What that means is that is a valid email, and I have no problem emailing it. If you can do those first, the catch-all verification model is it has some ambiguity to it, because you're usually finding that through another method and you don't know what it is. And there's ways to manipulate that. It can be very accurate because we do have some of that in ours, but we always mark if it is a catch-all valid, because it is less confidence. Just like anybody would tell you, a catch-all valid is going to be a lot less confident. So if you could just email the valids first, the impact is pretty compounding, then go to the catch-alls. Now, the only problem is if your end user or the person you're emailing for says the people who are catch-all are more valuable to us, then you're probably going to want to set up a separate sort of environment to do that, because that group is going to get, go for the momentum and get those replies coming in. But that's the biggest thing. Catch-alls are really weak. Like overall, and if you have any invalid catch-alls, dump the vendor. Like if they give you more than 1% in catch-all and you monitor it and they're invalid, just get rid of that email service, because finding service, because you'll find some of the top waterfall ones. I'm in 12th place right now, which pisses me off. But The top ones are in the invalid. That's what I would do first. Email valid people. Start with the valid that come out of Smartlead. Use the Smartlead validation, and you'll see what I mean. Start valid only.
All right, sounds good. Sounds
Start
good.
there.
Easy.
I'm not gonna ask another question. So thank you very much, and have a very good
Easy.
time. Very good
Thanks,
day.
man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Cool. We've now got Mr. David Sinclair Black. I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Go, sir.
By the way,
What's up,
Jesse, pink suits you, dude. I like the top. So I shat my pants last week. I was losing my mind, and we were testing out everything, and I went into kind of freak out mode. And very luckily, with a decent enough team, that we did everything pretty much that you've described here. The only other thing that is we're trying out a VPS to set up so that with different IPs that we're using when we're setting up tenants. So the only question I have for you, because we're already splitting up tenants, and all the other things that you mentioned here, do you think that there is similar to Google, something that Outlook will be doing where they look at the credit card that you use? Like, let's say that we have 50 IPs that we're using to set up 50 different tenants, but there's one credit card. Do you think it's possible Microsoft will look at that and think, actually, this guy is doing something shifty? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd guess no right now, but if you wanted to really eliminate that, you could use I use privacy.com, which is a great service. Basically, I actually don't buy SaaS anymore without privacy.com, and because I always forget to cancel if I don't want it, right? If it's like a trial. So that's one of the things that I do. But privacy also, because privacy.com allows you to put any name in, and which is nice because you can kind of it gives you some privacy there, right? Which is important, but that's something that I would consider. Obviously, the downside to it is you can forget and you can shut off a key service, which I've had happen, but you got to be careful there. But your best services, your top services, you want to put there. But yeah, they could definitely use that information. But if I had to guess, they're not. I mean, right now at least. But hey, if it becomes a real problem and they think it impacts user experience, they're going to definitely take advantage of that, right? I don't think it's at that level. That's in a different source system. They're going to have there would be a lot of issues there to get to access to that. Trust me, the data scientists that are working on this problem right now are asking about that data. Like, they probably just don't have access to it yet, but they will get it. Protect yourself. I mean, it's good what you said though. First, if you're using like an incognition or go log in or multi-login or one of those to do the fingerprinting, the different browser.
Yeah, we're using Contabo. They're like a German company.
Yeah. So you just want to make, that's good. You want to do that. And like, that's really good. You want to look like, the way I talk to people is like, imagine if you're like your grandmother was logging into like the inbox. That's what you want to look sort of like, to really prevent it. What I see a lot of teams doing, they log into every inbox with one stupid fingerprint, and it like, go look up browser fingerprint and figure out what your browser fingerprint is and figure out if it's the same. But that's what you want to be careful of, is like, you keep logging in like 100 of these inbox, they're going to just see it. The fingerprint is definitely it's going to be in the model, like eventually, right? It's either there now or they're going to be there. And it's probably like a secondary. The biggest thing is report to spam.
Yep.
Why you want to email. If you could choose your clients right now, take clients who email less technical people. Because
that's actually a good call out. That's actually a very good call out.
Email works a lot better when the audience is less technical. The more technical people understand that the report as spam button is about I report a lot of spam.
Jesse's just bad karma.
Hate me for it, whatever. But I mean, if it's crappy, if it's a good email and it has some relevance to it, I won't report it just out of respect. But I am reporting tons of spam.
The ultimate catch and bait twist, everyone.
Sorry,
the
guys.
Deliverability expert's the one who's causing everone.
Not you, trust me. I don't report Smartlead. I promise.
I'm kidding. No, I actually don't mark any email as spam, because each time I'm like, fuck. I need to be careful because there's a whole team that we need to feed and clients that we need to take care of.
I don't mark Smartlead, but everybody else, I've got automated marking as spam now.
Dylan's Jesse's entering. First, it's a pink shirt, and then it's the villain mode. Sweet. David, all good. Anything else, man?
Appreciate it.
All right.
I was just going to say, sorry. Oh no, everyone's blocking this thing. Okay. Jesse, you go. I was going to say one more thing. which is very important. You spoke about copy. I looked at our copy and we weren't doing as many checks for spam words and stuff. A lot of the copy was the same. So just as a word of warning to any agency owners out there, because if we're doing it, then you're definitely doing it. But like, stop using, like the quick questions and the same format and, the same wording, because the servers would just pick up on it. They see it as a pattern. Yeah.
The biggest problem with copy right now is actually not the words. It's actually what you want to check. That's why Defender is important. You want to check and pull out the actual raw email from Smartlead on their API, because it'll show you all of the extra HTML you might have accidentally copied in. What I'm finding is a lot of teams are copying it out of like a Google Doc or something like that, where they have a VA setting it up. And then that VA puts the copy in, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, that person just copied in a bunch of
random
HTML and all this other weird stuff. And that's the stuff that's showing up on the, so when you look at your Defender, you can see every single email, and you can also pull it from the Smartlead API. You can look at the raw text. You want to look at the raw text, and we use an event hook for monitoring this. So you can use an event hook to monitor the raw text. And if you can basically tell GPT to keep an eye on it. So that's what we're doing right now, and it's working pretty well, because we've accidentally done it. Like, you want to protect yourself. Assume the failure.
Good call. Good call. Easy. All right. Thank you, David. We're going to go to the next person. We've got Frank over here. Sweet. Frank, we're going to ask you to unmute yourself, please. I hope you are holding your laptop nice and sturdy.
I am.
No problem, man.
All right. Easy, man.
I'll put it over here. Don't give anybody like vertigo or anything.
Roller coasters. Go for it.
So this is two questions. The first one is, so given it seems like Outlook or Gmail inbox manual process, I may just be out of the loop, but is there an easy or efficient way to kind of automate the creation of those? That's the first question. The second one is also pretty quick.
It's all you can automate it all. The hard step is the DKIM step, but it's, you can automate it on Microsoft, and Gmail you can automate it, but it's a little harder. Creation of them, that's if you're doing it. There's some scripts that you could do there and things like that. There's also people who do the setup, but like the setup's getting lower. There's too many people doing it now, so there's like a lot of companies that are doing that and that. But what I would be careful of is the $1 like reseller who's buying, just getting everybody on this one group of like, or this one org, right? Remember, when the resellers, you're now sharing with a buy, like that'd be like, you have a property in a very nice area, and then you go and buy and you have it at the same price, like in a very bad area, right? You like move across town into like a really bad area, but you already have a really expensive house. So I try not to share with most of you here in terms of like, so, I like to keep it, you gotta get a little pristine, right?
No, that I totally, I get that. I guess it wasn't so much a question about the reseller. It was more so a question about like, internal process automation. Like, how would we actually save time if we wanted to build that ourselves? Right?
Yeah,
like, I know that reseller is a different question.
You could do it. So all of the Google API will do everything. You can do every single step, except for they do not have an automation for DKIM for a reason. That's they're like a little weird about, but you can automate it if you need to. It's just a little tricky. They don't want you to, but, and then the other one,
something like Parabola or something, right? Just like actually script it, like with
you can't use Selenium because that's like the Google, they don't go through there, but there's like Puppeteer, like some of the ways to go through there, but yeah, you're going through a login screen, so that's always going to be a violation, but you don't want to do that, but you want to basically figure out a way to do that. And you might have that one step. Some people don't actually do that step. They use RPA. A lot of people use RPA for it, like robotic process. But that's one step, the DKIM step. But if that's the only step you have to do for 100 inboxes one time every month, it's not that bad, I guess.
It's not that bad,
yeah.
Second
Everything
question
else is automated though, really easily.
That makes sense.
Even
second
buying
question, which is buying the domains as well.
Oh yeah, so Namecheap or DN Simple are probably my two favorite there. Cloudflare doesn't have buying domains unless you're on their enterprise plan. And GoDaddy's buying domains for the API sucks because you have to give them like you have to wire them the money, which is like I don't know why, but it's weird. You have to have the money. It's just weird. They make it hard. You have to do it from like a routing, it's like a wire transfer. So it just doesn't make sense. I just want to buy them with a credit card. I mean, it's weird, but that's why I like Namecheap. Namecheap's a little bit of an antiquated API. You have to put your IP in and do that. You can automate every single step you want. And then there's a lot of good vendors that I've seen that will set them up for you. But if they're managing them, make sure you understand where they're managing them from and who else is being managed with them. And if they're selling on low cost inboxes, you could be getting duped a little bit.
That makes sense. On that second question, which is hopefully much shorter, is HTML. Sorry, if you don't want to answer that and go to somebody else, that's
no,
good.
we can
I don't mind.
just to keep fair to everyone, if it's okay.
Yeah,
But,
no worries.
okay, if it's a
No, no,
quick question,
Plain text, I'll
go
answer.
for it.
Plain
Go for it.
text.
Go for it.
HTML only. Like thoughts on just HTML only versus removing any kind of formatting from the text.
I mean, the marketing world has a lot of tools that actually solve this problem. I wouldn't get into that. It's going to take your operational cost way up. So, if you're going to start doing HTML, you're getting into the marketing world.
Sorry, I meant plain text.
Plain
That's what I
text. You
meant,
went the other way
plain
around.
text.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You
the
gotta-
other way around. My bad, bro.
Even though my boy Eric doesn't like it because he can't show people his amazing. I don't know if he wants to show people his open rate these days, but not that he has a low. I'm not saying he has a low open rate. I'm saying that
Eric crushes it. Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, Eric's probably the best, one of the best.
Yeah.
But the problem is you got to go plain text. It just saves you so much accidental like HTML slipping in there, and if you use plain text, you have to turn off the open tracker, and your clients are going to be pissed. I'm not saying fake the open tracker numbers, but there's
But fake the open tracker numbers.
don't do that, please. That's for a fact.
I'm messing with you.
You don't want to do that, but they're just looking at a number that really is not relevant to anything. Like the open tracker is not relevant to anything anymore, right? Like it's completely bizarre that people are so obsessed with this thing. But reply rates are more important, of course, and you got to get the replies to know how to sell. You can't be in sales if you're not getting replies, right?
Makes sense. Thank you, guys.
All right. Cool. All right, let's go for it. Grant, if you don't mind unmuting yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Jesse and V. So Jesse, really looking for like what's the bottom line? I think you've already touched on a lot of it that will keep us out of the spam and the junk folders. Keep Warmup on, only email actual valids, IP proxies, anonymous browsers, virtual credit cards, all the fun stuff. But anything else? And a couple of specific questions specifically is how often should you switch up your copy if they're starting to recognize certain copy as spam? And then the great unsubscribe link debate. Does that improve your deliverability, or because then you got to turn off plain text only, right? So those are two things I wanted specifically as copy and unsub link. But if you have anything else on the bottom line to keep us out of the junk, that'd be good.
Yeah. So the first one, the copy, they're probably doing some good analysis on it. Like if it sounds the same and it's outbound and it's cold, they're going to start to get to that point as AI gets better and more compute comes along, but probably not totally there yet. I mean, it still works a little bit there, but you could use like a lot of people will bring it into like a spreadsheet first and do the mail merge, like a Clay or something like that, or do like a sort of GPT change to everything. But just make sure it doesn't make the copy sound weird, because there's a lot of like OpenAI has a lot of weird ticks. Like it uses a lot of the SEO crap that's out there, like the quick question stuff, the breakup email stuff. That stuff is really dangerous right now. Breakup email is probably the worst thing you could do right now. Any guilt emails, I automatically mark them spam with AI. I don't even look at them anymore because it's just crap, right? Like I don't even know you. Why are you breaking? Like that's not going to work. Guilt, not going to work, because you're going to guilt the person into hitting report as spam. Then on the other side, what was the other one? What was the other question? Was it plain text? What was the other one, V? The
I
last one
think
there.
that was it was just about copy and plain text, right? Oh, unsub was the other one.
Oh, unsub.
link.
So here's, you just have to ask this question every single time to get the answer. Would your grandmother put an unsub link in there? She would if she knew the legality of. She would if she knew the legality, but if she didn't know the legality, I don't know if your grandmother knows much about can spam and things like that, and like, you know, what your terms and services are, and you should probably review the terms and services of the platform to figure out if you need to put it or not. But if you know, you know. It's the way it is, right? You know, you got to kind of figure it out. I think V, obviously, all of V, you know, V gives the right guidance on this. You know, you want to follow the rules of the platform you're using. I don't know what whatever the rules are, you want to follow them. But if you know, you know. That's the way I look at it.
Got it. Easy. Well, thanks, Grant. Appreciate it. We're gonna move on to Mr. Daniel right after this. Give it a second. All right. Welcome on, sir. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, fabulous. On to you.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you so much, Jesse, for the insights on how to get back to the primary here. Just a quick question to throw in a little bit about what you spoke about the untracked reply section on Smartlead. Wanted to know a little bit about how you go about specifically compiling this mail delivery subsystem reports using GPT. Is there any benchmarks that you are looking at in terms of the types of reports that you get? What data points are you keeping track on a weekly basis to assess, you know, the overall health of the inboxes? And then for Vaibhav as well, if you guys are currently working on something that is also keeping track of that, just to ensure that we're not like building a lot of stuff on top of what you guys
Sure.
are bringing on the July
Sure.
update.
Sure.
I'm giving all my IP on this one over to the team over here because I want to stay in the primary. But the basic premise is we're just watching the bounce codes, and we're analyzing it with GPT, and we're building our knowledge there. We're understanding what they're telling you is, or what we're getting told. And then what we're doing is we've ingested in the documentation on what they tell you those bounce codes mean, just very black and white. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking for patterns. And, you know, I know, like, the funny thing is, you know, your clients are like, yeah, that offer kind of sucks. You know, it really comes down to that. So, you know, you're like, hey, we're getting a lot of 5, whatever the code is for, you know, from Office, like each one of these, and then the segs have their own. You know, V knows painfully about the segs now because of a lot of things going there, but they have their own numbers that are associated. And what we're looking at it, man, we're just human in the middle, or human in the loop. I think that's the word. You know, we're analyzing with GPT, but then we're doing human in the loop because we don't know the information yet. So once I have a good sense of it, I'll probably say, okay, I have a couple of, I don't have the hypothesis yet, right? Like I'm still like trying to figure it out. But what I do think is important is if you're starting to see blocks on the 4th and 5th email, probably a good time. Like certain senders, you do not want to send a 4th and 5th sequence. Do not let them. Like we've had senders who are like, we want to send 6. No. Yeah, like, because remember, the chances exponentially go up every email you send to that person. You're going to get most of your replies on 1 and 2. 3, hopefully you're not breaking up. Hopefully you're sending them value and leaving the door open to email them again, but never doing it, right? Like, because that's the problem. People are breaking, like this whole you've never been in a relationship with these people. So that's what I would do. I would really focus on sending quality, doing that. And, you know, the breakup emails go away, but I would do that. And I would analyze the data on the 3rd and 4th I wouldn't do the 4th sequence right now. I would stay at 3 pretty much on every scenario. I can't think of a good scenario for 4, although someone could present me with one and I probably listen, but I just don't see where that's going to, I block every 4th email automatically.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I report.
Yeah, no, that's entering the villain era there. Doing
Yeah.
some
Sorry about that. I need to keep my inbox clean too.
Yeah, wanted to ask if you see any difference, for instance, when it comes to emailing enterprise mailboxes, like the guys that
Yes.
are not using Outlook and Google, but I am right now, like I feel like I'm being punched in the face by Mimecast, then in the stomach with Barracuda, and then, you know, these other guys have Proofpoint as well, which is whole different gameplay. So wanted to know about that a little bit more.
Be careful taking clients on right now who have, what I would do is I would look at my pricing if you're charging clients like that, first thing I do is I find their ICP and then I scan all the MX records that they are emailing. And sometimes you got to give them the old K thanks bye, not going to really help you. Sorry, can't help you. You have to do that today. Agencies have to be, there's a lot of agencies that struggle to do this where they'll take on anybody. Oh my God, I got a client. And then they'll work for free. You know, it's like all these ways that people are putting themselves in a bad spot. You know, go in with the right plan and say, yeah, I don't know. You email, I'm going to have to do a lot of setup here because you email the wrong customers for a cold email. You're going to have to keep your sending volumes really low and your copy is going to have to be very relevant to that person. And email less technical audiences because it always is going to perform better. And make sure they're validated emails if you're always going to do that. But those are the things that you're going to really want to think about because those systems are way higher chance of blocking you. Like there's just the comparison is like one report is spam is going to start to kill you on anybody who's using that.
Dwindle all
And
the way
every
down.
Fortune 500, every single Fortune 500 uses like a Proofpoint, Mimecast, Ironport, Cisco, all the other ones that are out, the segs. So be careful on taking clients that email.
Good call out. Good call out.
Enterprise on that, like avoid it if you can.
David, you gotta stop the sex. Cool. Sweet. Daniel, you had a question to ask regarding if SL is doing. Oh, well, Daniel went away. But if you don't mind dropping that in the, yeah, you had a question regarding SL. I know it's 3 questions with you, but did you say something? Are we building something?
In regards to the untracked replies functionality of going all over the codes, if you guys are planning on rolling out.
Yeah, that's a good call out. So the like a ChatGPT injection on top of it to let people know what's happening. Yeah, good call out. I think I should have done this in the beginning because for those who are aware, we're not doing the system downgrade, system downtime. This Saturday, we found a better way to do it. We're rolling it out over the next few days. Once that does happen, it opens up a lot of opportunities for more process-heavy transactions. So this is definitely something for us to consider. If this becomes a problem that we need to solve for permanently, 100%, 100%. Yeah, easy.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
man. Thank you, Daniel. But I don't have an ETA. So if you want to build something on top of it, I reckon for now you can give it a crack. But yeah. All right. We've got 2 or 3 more people and then we'll call it a day. We've got Aman. Go for it, sir.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? Thank you very much for the session and great insights. All right, so actually I have been working with multiple clients right now, multiple agencies at the moment. So I actually did a couple of tests as well. So what I got to know with Microsoft that they're actually, you will be getting, your threshold of the tenant getting exceeded, right? This was my, take. So what I understand is what you guys, like what everybody's doing right now, they're putting a lot of domains on one tenant, right? As you mentioned that you're putting like 30 domains on one tenant. And I see that if you have like 30 domains on one tenant means that 5,400 emails are going out, including the warmups. And in the month, these are 100,000 plus emails, right? So this is what my take was. So what I did, I'm still using reseller, but I am setting up each domain on each tenant. Obviously a lot of work, a lot of excessive kind of, and it's everything, but still I'm doing that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm doing right now, so I'm putting one domain and each domain has like, your 2 users. And obviously one user will be sending around like 50, including the warm up. So means 100 emails are going out from one tenant. I did not face any problems with it. So what are your thoughts on this?
So the data is probably still early, but because they've done it, they're starting to talk about this concept of a high volume sender, which probably means they're going to roll something out where you can only have 20 on a tenant or something. It's in preview beta. You got to apply. You're probably going to have Azure, premium, enterprise, whatever. But that's coming out, and then that might help a little bit. But the best thing to do is to tie it to a financial cost center, meaning if you're selling these things to people, you want to tie the tenant to the customer, and that way your other customers aren't impacted by a negative tenant. And when I say tenant, I mean setting up an org, right? If it's in your business name, you're the reputation. It's your reputation. So if you take on a crappy client, and this is good for resellers to know too, like if they take on a high volume, like somebody who's spamming people and sending crappy health products, or I don't even know what else on there, but they're sending these like really bad emails, like put that customer on their own tenant, and then you can just shut that thing down. The problem I see is a lot of agencies in cold email, they avoid the setup cost. They go for the lowest common denominator on inboxes. They buy them off in areas where they're not emailing, right? It doesn't matter what country, it matters where you're emailing. And the matchup doesn't really make sense. It's like we got a bunch of emails from the APAC going into the US. That's a little weird, right? So I think all those things, the volume lower per inbox, whatever that is. I don't know. Nobody really knows the exact number, and it's going to keep changing. So I think what you want to do is monitor it. And if you see trends, make your own insights. And as somebody who sends emails, you know what you're sending. Your team is working with them to develop the copy, or you're writing the copy yourself. And look, we all know what we're offering people. If it's not really giving them a lot of value and you're asking for a meeting and you're just hoping they're interested, you know, you don't have any triggers involved, you don't have any sort of like relevance, then you try to use a catch-all verification system, which is, you know, not, it's like, come on, this is gonna do bad. This is gonna do bad. I'm sorry. Like it's on you, and you're sending it, and you're probably gonna blow up the rest of your customers too, which is what I see a lot of people doing now. They put all their customers on one tenant, and they blow up their entire ecosystem of clients.
Yeah.
They lose everybody. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think sorry, I'm on your muted. You can unmute
And then they
yourself.
blame Smartlead support or Slack.
Yeah. So just thank you very much. So what I am doing currently is definitely, you know, putting only one domain on one tenant. Definitely is excessive, but I think it's working really great for me.
That's,
So
I mean, that's the best. The setup costs are high.
Exactly. So, and also doing same with Google. So I did not face any problems with Outlook, and I did not face any problem with Google. So yeah, that's what my approach is. And definitely I'm getting it done via reseller, like reseller based in India. But yet, you know, he's helping me with, you know, just setting up the admin account and share the credentials with me, and then I do the setup. So yeah, that's what like I'm doing. So I think this is gonna be the go-to approach going forward.
New insights. Okay, that's great insights. So if I can summarize,
if it's working, don't follow anything I'm saying. Tell me to screw off. Like, keep doing it, right? Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't find that. But so Aman, so your basic perspective over here is one domain per tenant, 2 users per domain. And that seems to be working quite well for you, whether Outlook or Gmail. And your thesis, which is a fair thesis, is that when you're overloading on a tenant level, it doesn't make sense that we're pumping that many emails when we extrapolate on, you know, 5,000 a day into 30. That's what 150,000 a month. It doesn't seem to make sense, right? Okay, fair enough. Cool. That's a very good call out. Thank you, man. That's
a good call out. Yep.
Cool. That's a very good call out. Thank you. I'd love to. Maybe I'll ping you on Slack to see how you're going over the next few days and weeks, and that might be something interesting to write about if the data matches. Easy. Thank you, man. Fabulous. Easy. Cheers so much. Cool. We've got Lawrence next. You will need to turn on your camera, please, Lawrence, if that's okay, and then we can spotlight you. Lawrence, is he still here? Okay. Oh, cool. Camera, please, Lawrence, for us to spotlight. Okay, well, perhaps you work out your camera. We'll just get Saksham on board.
Go for it.
Saksham, go for it, man.
Hey, Jesse. Yeah, so
what's up?
pretty simple here. So as we understand, there has been some blogs in the warm up in the last previous 1 week or so in the warm up pools, right, while doing the warm up. And so based upon that, the deliverability is affected. So have you made any strategic change in the sending volume and the warm up volume as per your current structure?
Not a lot of changes yet. I've been looking at the data. I've been sort of monitoring it. If I had to say anything right now, even like guessing, it would probably be that maybe warm up is a little less effective, but that's only like really like it can be less effective, and that's still fine. There's like tweaks you can make to make it more effective, right? But you know, it's hard to really like it's really hard to tell. What I think it might be happening is the engagement, right? Because it's like positive to negative engagement, what's going to work best. And I think what's important for people to understand is that it's going to keep changing. You're probably going to have to keep modifying it. I haven't made any I don't want to make any changes because we don't really have the same problem. What I'm trying to find is people that I have a couple of people. I actually have I have access to like a couple of people that I'm helping out where they definitely have the most inboxes on the Smartlead system. So I'm looking at that information a little bit more to try to figure out if there's some trends, and we'll release more of those. I'm going to give them to Smartlead just to see, and show the data to them, but haven't made any major changes.
So what's your current warm-up volume or sending volume as of now?
We're still doing like the 45%.
The number of emails, I mean. Warm-up
What's
emails.
that?
How many number of warm-up emails per day?
Oh, you mean like percentage, number of warm-up emails on like which like if it's in motion, or if it's like, are you talking about the?
Yeah, in motion.
I'd have to go look. I think we're on 45% reply on like, most we do like 50, right? Like just so it's running there. And then when it's running, the 10 like AI response one, whatever it is, but I'd have to go double check. Like I've got somebody
from the little that I know of the accounts that you manage, Jesse, it's pretty much on live campaigns you keep it at 10, and on dormant
Right.
campaign it fluctuates between about 30 to 35. This was when I checked a few weeks ago. That might have changed, obviously, but
So around 30 emails.
yeah, 30 emails. Yeah, 30 plus
And
40
I got
outbound. But
the,
depending on some tenants, it's actually 35 outbound as well. So it's interesting insights on that one. So
I work with a guy, Lakshay. You probably know him too. So like,
Yeah.
you can message him too. He'd probably
Yeah,
tell you.
Lakshay would have that information. Cool. Awesome. Awesome, Saksham. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Sweet. We got two more. Sweet. Lawrence, we got the cameras on. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, please. I'll ask you to unmute. Oops. Sorry. I muted you. 1 second. Can you unmute yourself again? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Go for it, man.
Okay, so thanks a lot for Jesse, all your inputs. Just I wanted you to summarize how does the Google spam filters work. And two, that is my first question, just a short summary. And two, if we use this click tracking, see, I'm using a custom domain for click tracking. And for that, for just one domain, and the emails land in the inbox. But for others, I'm not using a custom domain. If I turn it off, would that be a better option?
Yeah, you got to turn off click tracking in really every scenario, because it's just really hard. Like it doesn't really. It's sort of like open tracking. It's actually the worst of all of it because click tracking really has a security implication for people. So they're not really looking at. It's not the cold email factor, and it's an easy way to fingerprint people. So you really have to keep click tracking off, right? That link is super dangerous. Right, how that thing is generated, all of that, like it's there, but it's look, you have to put it in the platform. They have to put it in the platform because everybody it's sort of like open tracking, but it's like, I can't imagine any company's going to allow somebody just like that's exactly how you get hacked. Right.
Can I add one thing, Lawrence, if it might help to you as well as what Jesse said. So in this whole Outlook discovery stuff, the one thing that we've picked up, there's no correlative. I don't want to put a trend over here, but this is just what we picked up, right? It's just an observation from a very small data set. And the observation was super straightforward, which is whenever the link tracking was added to the headers, the emails disappeared. That means when you click send or when you clicked campaign, they didn't even show up on the send folder of the Outlook account. They just disappeared, right? We removed it and we still sent on HTML. We sent on HTML. We just turned off the open tracking. Just when there was no open tracking link, the image was not there, it worked. So something new. I'm not too sure if there's any correlative value in a longer spectrum, but that was that. We turned it off, as in we removed it. It was still HTML, it worked, and plain text, it worked. But the second we added the open tracking, it didn't. But the interesting thing is when we added a link, so for thinking that it was a causality of a link being in an email was a problem. No, when we added a link, it still worked. But when we added that open tracking image, it didn't work. But then we added another link. This is where it started getting I was like, I need to go to bed. When we added certain links, it disappeared. And then we added other links, it appeared. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's really hard. This is where these guys are really good. And I run an email validation service, so I know. Yeah. But think about it, it's called gray listing, right? What they do is they They don't make it easy. They're going to give you false negatives. That's how they
Yep.
trick you. They give you false negatives all the time. Maybe 1 out of 10 are a false negative, just because they don't want you to figure this out. That's how they do it, right? Shadow banning, they do things like that. That's how these companies do it, right? That's how they screw with you on the algorithm. They just know what the ratios are, and they're like, we'll just throw them a couple bad ones so they don't even know how to figure it out. And that's what you got to do. You got to be aware. You got to know algorithms. You got to know predictive models. You got to know all the features that can be in the model. Think about the features.
Yep,
right? That's
agreed.
the thing.
Cool. And Lawrence had a second question, which is what was the second question? Sorry, you said something about Google spam filter, and the other one was
Google's going to trust their own inboxes more always. Don't
Yep.
debate on that. I know there's a guy out there who made a post a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I do know how emails delivered, and I'm sorry.
Jesse, don't listen. We're not going to
If
listen
you
to
have
all
a
the
safe
random
email,
stuff.
you have a safe email on Google.
Yep.
Google's going to trust their own shit more.
Yep.
Sorry.
100%.
Like 100%. No way a model would be built that not like that.
Agreed.
Yeah, my question was, Jesse, a quick say summary of how the spam filters work in Google. So we have covered a lot in Outlook, but in Google, is there any changes or?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change, what's funny about this whole thing is nobody really knows, right? Like, let's just start that. But the biggest change that could be out there is it looks like possibly some of these where Microsoft is saying, we're not responsible for this person. We know them, we've heard of them before. They're paying us actually, which is weird, but we're not actually able to give you any sort of security or any there. It could be possible that some of those inboxes are making blacklists more. So you have to keep an eye on this relay thing. And Google is using every piece of information that they have to keep cold emails that piss off their customers out of. And the way that they know this is when one of their customers hits report as spam. And if you hit the wrong Google customer, it's going to happen a lot faster because they want to get, like, you know, if I had a team, they went and sent 5 emails to Honeywell, 5 reports, and their entire like this was a SaaS company, their entire, not with our system, not with Smartlead, but like they went completely, Google just took them right out, right? Like they had to go, their IT team had to call, like they had to really do some damage control because certain customers they're more they're more concerned about. So you got to be careful, especially when you're going up market. They're bigger customers. Don't, you know, and let's not talk about segs anymore. I think we're done there.
David, you have to put your, yeah, of course he's going to show. All right. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Lawrence, for that. We got one last call out with Patrick, and then we'll call it a day right after that. We've well overboard our time,
Whoa,
but also
I love this.
fabulous questions. So let's go for it. Patrick, on to you.
Hello, guys. Thank you, Jesse, for the session. Very insightful. So the question I wanted to ask, so you suggested more diversification in terms of like tenants and organization. I wanted to ask how much of diversification, like in terms of inboxes per under one organization or tenant, or like terms of volume, what would you suggest in that regard?
So theoretically, you're sending B2B emails. You want it to probably, if I had to say, like, probably where I'd start is wherever the financial cost center is, probably start there. So if you're working with a client, you know, you're sort of simulating their company, you're sort of their proxy MSP, if you will. What you probably want to do is start at that, you know, at least at that level. What you want to be careful is combining a really good offer and a really bad offer together, because you could kill the person who's the bad offer is going to churn. I'm going to, you know, like, let's cut to the chase. The bad offer always churns. The good offer usually stays with you until they start to get lower reply rates because you took on a bad offer. So try to do it at the financial cost center where it's like one client, one tenant. I mean, there was somebody that just came on and said they do it at an inbox level, which is probably safer if they have their operational security in place with sort of like fingerprinting and things like that. Then there's a little more control there. But I mean, that's probably the best if you're good at it. But if you're not, like, you probably want to put it at the cost center and hold the customer accountable to their own quality. And if the email doesn't work and you're not getting good reply rates, it might be the customer. It might be their offer. Their offer might suck. Like, I don't want to, like, I know I'm always on deliverability and like the message, whatever, but it's not, the message is the most important part of it. Like, stop giving the system, start sending good offers out. You'll get much better reply rates. Find customers with good reply rate or good offers, and then lower their price to account for the more, because they can, good offers can pay less for cold email. Bad offers, charge them a lot. Charge them for negative replies instead of positive replies.
Yes. That'd be a new pricing model altogether. That's a fun one. But I will attribute a lot of what Jesse has said. I do think it does come from a premise of, I guess, you need to have that choice. If you're starting off, it's a little difficult, but once you do build up a bit of a brand, like perhaps Jesse does have, you can have that opportunity to go ahead and say no to clients based upon the offer. There's actually a bunch of people who do this. So Jesse's actually made a very, very cool call out, is when you're trying to do pre-qualifiers, maybe it's worthwhile asking the customers what their offer is and what they've tried in the past, right? I think that will make all the difference as well. I hope that helps. Patrick? Yes, sweet. I have one last question, Jesse. Sorry, man, we've got you here. We'll just drop it in one last one, and then we'll call it. I think people asked this 100 times, and I sort of stated with, yep, Gilbert, it's your question. It's your question. That's the one. What are your thoughts about third-party providers? We're not going to take names because we want to keep it clean.
It depends on who it is. Like, there's more information to be had. There can be good, they can be bad. There's some good ones, and by the way, the good ones.
What is a good one? How do I?
A good one is the one that takes the accountability and fixes the problem if you see a delivery problem. I'd actually rather see how they do in bad situations. That's what I would say. Try to ask them, hey, if you start to experience, and then I would also ask them about their tenant management. I would say, like, hey, how are you putting me, which other customers am I going to be on the same tenant with? And they usually will stop calling you at that point, because they're going to tell you, if they're like, well, we don't really decide. I mean, that's not really okay. Well, that's a problem, because if you're emailing with, then you got to know what other customers they have, right? You should ask that question. Right? If they put everybody on one, then it's like, come on, man. Like, it's going to be very dangerous, because your qualification, you just really killed your business. Your own business got impacted by that, right? Like, you just really put yourself in a bad spot, because now you have to monitor all of the customers that they have, not just yourself. So
this chat's yeah, okay, fair enough. But I want to sort of pry in it a bit more. I want to try get to an actionable outcome. So does that mean everyone over here, when trying to try out different third-party providers, needs to go ahead and ping their support saying, what's the question for us to ask to qualify them? And let's take into consideration, Jesus Christ, Henry, just take into consideration that we've got a set of customers who are maybe technical / not technical. What do we go ahead and ask?
So I would ask, like, how are they, how are they adding new customers to the platform? What sort of controls in place? Those types of things, like when they have, and then if these inboxes stop working and that, what are some of the things that they do to, mediate, like, they're eventually going to have some issues. What are some of the things they do? Do they really understand it? What are they doing for monitoring? Like, are they using Defender? Are they doing anything like this? What's the service that they're using? Those are the types of questions I would ask.
Okay.
If they don't know what they're doing, then probably, I would be careful. If it's cheap inboxes, you're the product. You're the test product.
You're the test product. Yep.
The cheap inbox.
I did want to call that out to everyone as well. Is you need to understand that Google is basically selling mailboxes at $10 a pop, with reason, right? And if someone's coming and selling at 1/5 and 1/10 the cost, probably worthwhile asking. I think, Jesse, those are fabulous questions to raise. This has been one of the most enticing sessions we've had. Jesse, we've had the highest attendance rate. I think we had about 350 something, 400 at one time. And this is ironically the lowest we've ever actually promoted this. So thank you so much for your time. I know it's trying times, but hopefully this has given people insights on what to do and clear actionable outcomes. There was a lot of words said, that's for sure. We will push this up on YouTube in the next 24 hours. Join our Slack channel if you've got any questions. Jesse runs a high value group called SYC, SaaS Yacht Club. That's kind of where everything started for me and for a lot of us over here. So provided Jesse lets you in, feel free to join that. Search for it online. We're not going to put a link for you there. But pop it in, SaaS Yacht Club. It's highly exclusive WhatsApp group. Sweet. Jesse, any parting insights before the group drops?
Stay safe out there. Don't send spam to people, especially me. I'll block it, report it. But seriously, honestly, send quality information. You're not going to have as many. And I would just, take away, like, try to take easier clients on. Like, I think that's another thing. Just take on easier clients. People who have good offers, you're kind of excited about their product. Ultimately, you're selling it. Don't take the shitty ones. Like, the shitty ones will come over and give you a month of billing every single time. But take the high quality ones. They might be a little bit harder to close, but get them in a longer term contract. Start to look at the LTV of your business and long-term value instead of all these churn, bad. Just stop sending crappy stuff.
Good call out. I'd like to add one point is I think it's very important for a lot of you agency owners or freelancers or anyone doing outbound to start trying to get into the concept of automation. Whether you can do it or not, try find someone online that can help you automate a lot of these things. Even the stuff that Jesse called out today with respect to the untracked replies and picking up bounces. It may sound technical, but it's honestly just a couple of minutes task. Pick up that, webhook it, pick it to ChatGPT, give it a prompt, the ChatGPT prompt on N8N or make they have like a native ChatGPT prompt, pop it in there and say, figure out the common error, right? The common error is going to be picked up. It will be pushed up directly to like a G sheet or whatever it is. And then effectively, by the end of the day, what you want to do every 24 hours, you want to run another ChatGPT prompt to read through the entire sheet and pick up common errors, right? And then correlate the common errors with maybe a campaign that you're running or maybe a mailbox that's over there. All of this, you don't need any human intervention. You don't need to do anything. It's maybe 30, 40 minutes of work from the person you want to get them to build out. And you can get very clear reports on what's happening to your campaigns, your mailboxes, and your copy in a very straightforward way. And these are the things you can really do to make some sort of success to your outbound.
I'll build one live on the next one, on the next episode.
There we go. Look at that. We've got a challenge. We got one. All right, cool. Looks like we got the next one coming up and we got the agenda for it. Awesome. Everyone, thank you so much. Stay safe. Thank you for your faith in us. We've got some exciting things coming out for all of you from features, products, and delivery updates. The thing that I said at the start of the session, that will not be live today. It will be like live right now. It will be live in the next 12 to 18 hours. I was talking to the Eng team. So we're expecting for you to see some great outbound to Gmail from Monday onward. So all the best. Thank you. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye all.